Jenni Allison. I'm a knitwear designer and product developer based in Edinburgh. And as the little text on the screen says, I use digital technologies to make physical things. So I use programs that are typically used in maybe gaming or in kind of supply chain fashion to create objects for people to own. A little bit about my background. Before sort of the pandemic hit, so 2019, 2020, I worked for a Scottish manufacturer of knitted textiles. I worked mainly with luxury brands, for example, Chanel, Sonia Rykiel, Loewe. And my role was kind of to pattern cut knitwear. It was to develop new fabrics, to develop new designs for customers. Some of what we did was using 3D technology, but not an awful lot. As soon as the pandemic hit, all of our sampling moved to virtual sampling overnight. And that meant that we were pattern cutting digitally, we were generating renders digitally, we were kind of looking at how a garment might look before it was even knitted and before we even had any yarn. So there's a little video here of a very speeded up process of digitally pattern cutting. And you can see the final render for that piece on the right hand side in the middle. Digital sampling and virtual sampling is really important, not only for when factories are closed or supply chains are interrupted, but also for sustainability reasons. You can check a design before it's made, you can look at how different colourways might work together, you can pitch something to a client or to a business or to an investor before you've had to make anything. And so that cuts down a lot of waste in the prototyping kind of phase of development. I use 3D virtual sampling a lot in my own work, especially for garments. So you can see on the left a couple of pieces I designed in 3D in a program called Clothes3D. And then these were designed before anything was knitted, and then the final pieces were knitted afterwards, after I'd kind of checked how they might fit, how they might drape, how the pattern might look, if it was the right scale, if the trims were the right kind of colour and size. All of those decisions can be made before you physically make something, which is really invaluable as a small business, but also, as I said, from a sustainability point of view. Whilst I've been using Clo3D, this program, to create these things, I started to think about other ways that the program could possibly be used in my practice. So instead of having a human avatar, I decided to import some Doric columns as avatars into the program and draping fabric onto those columns. So I sort of played around with different physics of the fabrics. Was it transparent? Was it opaque? Does it have a pattern in it? What's the drape like? Is it made of silk? Is it made of cotton? And started looking at the way that the results looked. And I thought there was something really beautiful about these pieces, and maybe there would be a way to take them kind of forward and almost try and take them out of the digital world into the physical world. So still using Clo3D, I started taking elements of these renders and placing them onto blankets. So kind of as if I was taking that render and then putting it on to another piece of fabric, which would move and bend in the same way as a physical piece of fabric would. So a little film here that I made of just kind of a little wind effect of the kind of fabric moving and rippling and mimicking the sort of drape that I'd created on the columns. I was really interested in these, and I pitched these to local heroes who were up for putting them in their London Design Festival show, The Future of Home. And if we just go to the next slide, you can see the physical blankets here, which went down to London for the show. These were digitally knitted in Scottish borders, in jacquard, in really beautiful luxurious lamb's wool. So it's kind of gone full circle. I've gone from creating physical things to working mainly digitally to now bringing my digital items back into the real world. Thank you very much.